Donald Trump's "Drill, Baby, Drill" slogan emphasizes expanding oil and gas production in the United States. However, his ambitions extend beyond domestic extraction. He aims to sustain global dependence on fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. Yes, Trump is leveraging U.S. influence through trade tariffs and military aid to increase the international flow of oil and gas. In countries like Japan and Ukraine, deals are being crafted to promote fossil fuel exports. His administration has even supported reviving coal usage in Africa, arguing that it can address energy shortages on the continent. Chris Wright, the U.S. Energy Secretary, recently criticized Western nations for discouraging coal development in Africa, calling such positions as paternalistic and nonsense. Speaking at an oil industry conference in Houston, Texas, Wright argued for increased fossil fuel use and condemned Joe Biden's climate policies as irrational. He also dismissed the possibility of renewable energy sources like wind and solar replacing fossil fuels, despite expert disagreement. This push for continued fossil fuel reliance may lead to increased U.S. support for drilling projects in Africa. Proponents argue that oil and gas development can help provide electricity to the approximately 600 million people on the continent who currently lack access. However, climate scientists warn that continued fossil fuel use intensifies the global climate crisis, disproportionately affecting vulnerable regions like Africa, despite contributing the least to greenhouse gas emissions. African countries face severe consequences, including rising temperatures, droughts, and floods. These climate-related disasters could reduce African nations' GDP by up to 5% due to economic losses. While other countries are moving slowly towards cleaner energy sources, Trump is reinforcing fossil fuel dominance. He has reversed a Biden-era pause on American gas exports, attracting investment interest from Japan and South Korea in an Alaska gas project. Additionally, a proposed deal with Ukraine could grant the U.S. access to the country's mineral resources, including oil, gas, and critical materials like graphite used in batteries. This agreement could also influence Trump's position on U.S. military support for Ukraine, which has been under strain since Russia's invasion in 2022. By cutting support for renewable energy and dismantling international climate initiatives, the Trump regime is hindering global efforts to reduce emissions. People worldwide, especially in vulnerable economies, they need climate solutions. But Trump's agenda signals no intention to address these urgent concerns. Trump is moving to reconsider the official determination that greenhouse gases endanger public health, a decision that could dismantle the legal basis for the United States' climate regulations. This action is part of a sweeping effort to weaken or repeal environmental protections on power plants, vehicles, and waterways. The Environmental Protection Agency under Trump's leadership announced this week that it may revoke a pivotal 2009 ruling that classified greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, as a danger to human health. This endangerment finding stems from a Supreme Court decision granting the EPA authority to regulate such emissions and serves as the foundation for policies aimed at reducing climate pollution. Despite extensive scientific evidence linking greenhouse gas emissions to escalating climate-related disasters and significant economic costs, Trump has consistently dismissed climate change as a hoax and mocked those advocating for climate action as climate lunatics. Trump's EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin justified the potential reversal by claiming the endangerment finding has led to regulations that burden American industries and consumers while giving an advantage to foreign competitors. He described Wednesday's actions as the most consequential day of deregulation in American history and declared that the agency was driving a dagger through the heart of climate change religion and ushering in America's golden age. According to Zeldin, the EPA's mission is to reduce the costs of consumer goods, including cars and energy. Environmental advocates condemned the EPA's announcement, pledging to defend established climate science and the legal mechanisms for addressing the climate crisis. During Trump's first term, courts frequently struck down similar attempts to roll back environmental protections, and legal challenges to these latest actions are expected to follow. In total, the EPA issued 31 announcements within a few hours, targeting nearly every major environmental regulation designed to protect Americans' clean air and water and a livable climate. Among these moves was a decision to overturn a Biden-era plan aimed at reducing pollution from coal-fired power plants, a scaled-back version of an Obama administration policy that was previously struck down by the Supreme Court. The EPA also plans to revisit vehicle pollution standards, which Zeldin described as a crushing regulatory regime on automakers transitioning to electric vehicles. Other proposals include weakening limits on soot pollution linked to serious health issues, potentially eliminating rules preventing power plants from polluting waterways or dumping toxic waste, and further restricting the scope of the Clean Water Act. If upheld by the courts, this sweeping rollback of pollution regulation could reshape America's environmental landscape in ways not seen since the 1970s, when landmark legislation curbed the era of smog-filled skies and polluted rivers that followed industrialization. Pollution from power plants, highways, and industry contributes to heart and lung diseases and other health problems. Meanwhile, greenhouse gases from these sources drive global temperature increases, intensifying extreme weather events like heat waves, floods, and storms. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom's net zero green economy now generates over $83 billion in GVA, gross value added, and has grown 10% in the last year, according to a new report. The report reveals that the UK net zero economy is a significant driver of growth, innovation, and productivity, suggesting it will be vital for the government's wider growth agenda. Employment within the sector has also seen significant growth of 10.2% over the past year. Net zero businesses support the equivalent of nearly 1 million full-time jobs, which are typically better paid than the UK average. With the UK aiming to reach net zero by 2050, a crucial part of the strategy is to transition to an electricity system with 100% zero-carbon generation, and much of this is expected to come from renewable energy. Currently, 43% of the UK's energy comes from a mixture of renewable sources, solar and wind and hydroelectric. It's technically and economically feasible for the US to transition to a 100% renewable energy economy, with studies suggesting this could also be achieved by 2050 and some even predicting even sooner. But with a tyrant at the helm, who cares nothing for the planet or for the health of its citizens, the climate crisis clock has been set back considerably.
That is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.